Okay, I just want to give a bit of context before you put it up because so recently I've been reaching out to a lot of these organizations on Twitter more, and they've been reaching out to me to highlight these stories. And as I said, like it's been the holiday season and I've had loads of family commitments, but going back onto social media, I've just almost been like inundated with messages of people who are honestly it's not a great start to the new year because they're in such precarious situations. And I was trying to like read through a bunch of their stories today, and they've attached like their legal documents and their asylum rejection applications and the counter offers that are being made to them by the governments. And I really didn't have time to sift through all of this and take out their personal details. But this one that I sent you, Horace, just came through to me earlier today, and hopefully we're going to get an interview from this person. But one of the other peoples who sent me their case today, I didn't have time to go out and block it all out. But this gentleman will actually be joining us next Sunday to actually tell his story, because I did say the nuances within your case and the things that the Swedish government are telling you is not something I'm going to be able to convey as much as you are in terms of your actual story. And he's just given, he's not him, his wife has just given birth to a baby. So they were hoping for somewhere as well that their child could be established and they could set up a life. But as it goes, Sweden is sending them back to an Islamic country and telling them to convert back to Islam and kind of just hide there. And it's just not possible to live in hiding with a toddler when he's got explicit death threats. So we will cover that story. But this is one that just came through as well. I've read it really kind of quickly twice. I don't think there's anything personal in here, so I'm happy to read it. But this is another situation of somebody stuck in Egypt. So this person goes, "Hi Nuria, how are you? My name is Dada." So this is the organization Secular Underground in Persian. I told you guys to follow on Twitter because they do a lot of work for these people. Anyway, this man is an ex-Muslim atheist man from Somalia and currently lives in Egypt as a registered UNHCR refugee since 1993, after my parents fled the civil war in Somalia to nearby Kenya and then to Egypt. I've been in Egypt since 1991, and just like any Somali family, Islam was a major component in our family. But in 2018, I left Islam after I didn't find answers to a lot of questions and publicly announced my atheism in July 2021. And became an activist for atheist rights in the Middle East. Since then, I received a lot of death threats, messages, and calls for the police to arrest me after my photos and personal information were shared in groups by Islamic extremists due to my activities on subjects like atheism and anti-extremism and religious debate. And not only that, but also I face a lot of harassment and racism in real life when people meddle in my affairs while I'm in public areas or on public transportation, to the extent that I once got beaten by a mob, and another time I almost got handed over to the police by an angry mob of people, both of which happened to me only because I was an atheist. And since Egypt is an Islamic country whose constitution is based on the principles of Islamic Sharia, atheists can be criminalized. Obviously, we all know very well by now the blasphemy law, which targets any atheist up to 5 years in jail if he, she dare talk, discuss, criticize the Islamic texts, such as the Quran, Hadith, or Sharia law. This prevents me from going to the police asking for help because I'm a public activist and open critic of the teachings that promote terrorism, misogyny, LGBTQ plus hatred, and many more acts that conflict with humanity. As many stories show that almost any atheist or irreligious person who resort to the Egyptian authorities for protection or reporting harassment and things like that, they end up either arrested or physically harassed and persecuted by the police themselves. So it's a known fact that the Egyptian government will not and cannot protect atheists in Egypt, and that's why extremists feel free to target atheists without fearing the consequences. Recently, someone sent me a message telling me that he's been searching for me and he will get to me soon. And that made me panic and started hiding in my home and stopped going out often unless it's something urgent. And when I do, I cover my face so no one can recognize me or try to kill or abduct me, even though my job requires me to be in the streets 90% of the day because I work as a sales representative for a medical supply company. And this is what I just wanted to highlight as well, the failure of the UNHCR here to actually act and heed this guy's concerns. This is why I think we need to spread these voices more. And people, if you in your individual countries, you know of international like public law lawyers or lawyers who work on refugee asylum cases, people fleeing for religious persecution reasons, then please feel free to pass on these cases because we just kind of want to get as much exposure as possible. So yeah. can we zoom in, Horace? I just want to show you what the UNHCR has done. Because I'm registered under their UNHCR, I called them many times to report what's happened to me, but unfortunately their numbers are always busy and their office is closed for refugees due to COVID. So I resorted to an organization that works side by side with the UNHCR called St. Andrew's Refugee Services and asked for help and legal aid. But the international lawyer I met there strictly advised me not to go to the police to report what happened because of the risk that I might get locked up for 5 years under the infamous Egyptian blasphemy law. And she advised me to report to the UNHCR instead. After days of attempting to call UNHCR's busy numbers, they finally responded, and I told them my story and told them about the death threats, messages, and I had received. But an employee with an angry voice blamed me for this and then hung up on me. So I sent them messages, but there was no response. One of my friends told the Egyptian Initiative for Personal Rights about me, and they contacted me and listened to my story and also advised me not to go to the police to report what happened because they might arrest me instead. Life as a targeted atheist is very depressing because you don't know when they're coming to get you. So yeah, that was kind of the start to my new year. And I know I can't go into much more detail. And this case is obviously still in a very precarious setting. So we obviously want the UNHCR to act. But this is when atheists or people who choose to give up Islam are stuck in these situations, and you have these big organizations like the UN and the UNHCR, where all it really takes is some engagement. They could make so much happen, but they also let so many people fall through the cracks and leave them at the behest of countries where everybody around you pretty much is out to get you. And I also really empathize with the fact that as a Somali in Egypt, I can fully understand the general day-to-day racism he'd be facing as well. There's layers to the persecution and the hate he'd face. So yeah, it's.
Well, I'm obviously not the expert, but it is a very traumatic experience because I have spoken with some of my friends who've been in that situation. So how it works is, so this guy's a Somali. I'm assuming so obviously he's in Egypt now and he's being harassed and all that. So he escaped Somalia, but it's kind of like out of fire into the frying pan kind of thing.
Mhm.
So he came out of Somalia. He's in Egypt now. He's waiting to be resettled to some other country. So the process is you escape your country, you go to a second country. Usually it's easier for you to get in those countries. If you could directly go to the United States or Canada or Britain or whatever, then you would do that, but you can't do that because if you're coming from Somalia or Pakistan, Afghanistan, etc., passports are not that powerful. So you go to these third countries where you are not supposedly in any immediate danger, but you still are, because if it's a Muslim country, then you're always in danger. Then you make an application to UNHCR as an asylum seeker. So UNHCR then can take up to 2 years, and this COVID has slowed everything down. So you can do that. You can go there, and then UNHCR assesses your application. They look at your case, and then they give you what we call an asylum seeker status. So has he got that? Sorry, I think he mentioned that. No, he hasn't.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't got it at all.
And he's been on the run since 1993. This is obviously one of those ones where some cases go wrong, and you just can't. It's terrible for them. Ghalib knows more about these cases. There are some cases we know that people have been in the limbo, so in these third countries like Sri Lanka or whatever, some other country where they don't even speak the language, they're not allowed to work. The kids have literally grown up there. They were born there. Now they're like 18, 20 years old, and they haven't been to a school. They can't be members of that society. So there are some really, really terrible stories out there, and this seems like it's probably kind of like that. But what's standing between him and a good life for his children in some Western country is a UNHCR status, refugee asylum seeker status. UNHCR, to the best of my knowledge, is it is the only one that we rely on. But again, there are people everywhere. So this person who was rude and got angry on this guy and then hung up on him, who knows what kind of day that person might have been having. But my advice to that, to asylum seekers is, now again, this is no judgment on you or anything, but I understand obviously I can't even understand how terrible your circumstances might be, but you always have to, under these traumatic circumstances, you have to be very concise, and you have to be very polite. You have to date everything, document everything, and then that's how you present. For example, I remember Ghalib was telling me, like, these guys had these massive folders with everything, with every date and everything, and they're purely bureaucratic languages. Let they speak bureaucratic language, because they're not going to go there and then, like, oh, please, even though that is a natural instinct to do, like, you're panicking. I mean, how can you ask a person who's on the run to not to panic, or if he's having a
Yeah.
panic attack, just calm down. That's one thing that never works. But this is why it's probably best that you only communicate with these people when you are in the calmest of your states. That's so. I don't know the nitty gritty of that, but I wish you best of luck. Nuria did mention, so this person came to you through Secular Underground Network, that we've featured them on a couple of times on our show. They're doing great work. They've been helping Afghan atheists. They recently helped this Pakistani ex-Muslim family. So there's the guys, do follow them. I know we can't always support monetarily, but just support, like, share, give them voice. It helps a lot.
If you like these videos and want to support me in my activism, then you can support me on Patreon or PayPal. Stay free, everyone!